Are you the bottleneck in your own business? It may be the number one thing holding your business back from the growth you really want. How do I know this? Because I've experienced it myself multiple times. Earlier in my entrepreneurial journey, I was doing client work and marketing and sales. I was tapped out. I'd be working with clients, so I'd do less marketing, and less marketing meant less sales opportunities. When I'd get caught up with client work, I'd start some marketing and bring on new clients. But then I'd be super busy again. It was a vicious cycle. It wasn't until I hired someone to help do the client work that my business started to grow again. Later, I became the bottleneck in sales. We had happy clients, we were doing consistent marketing, but my calendar just didn't have enough availability for all the sales opportunities that were coming in. Each time the business stalled, it was because I needed to remove a hat and delegate something. Maybe you find yourself in this spot right now. You're managing the team, doing client projects, and you're doing all the sales. And the business isn't growing. You want to grow, so you start hiring. Maybe it's a project manager, a sales rep, or an office administrator. But each time you add an overhead role, your expenses go up. And that brings us to the first key point. If you're adding roles to replace yourself, you need more gross margin to cover that overhead. The easiest way to explain this is with a quick example. Let's say your business is currently running at a 30% gross margin. If you want to hire someone to take over a piece of your workload, their salary or costs need to be covered by that margin. So you either have to increase your gross margin or do more projects at the same margin. Let's break those two down. First up, increasing gross margin. This is the harder option because it means raising prices, negotiating better deals with subcontractors and suppliers, or improving efficiency on every single job. It's definitely doable, but it takes time and strategic effort. The easier option, doing more projects at the same margin. To do that, you need to ramp up your marketing and your sales efforts. And this is where a lot of owners get stuck. You're too busy working in the business to work on the business. And if you want to scale your remodeling business, you have to focus on generating more leads and closing more deals. That's the only way to fill your pipeline and increase your project volume. And guess what? That's not something you should be doing yourself. You need a team, systems, and processes to handle marketing and sales. As I started to realize this pattern, it became easier to zoom out and identify where I was the bottleneck and what would grow the business. If you're stuck right now, you may need to free up more time for sales. If you simply don't have enough time to sell more projects, you need to take off a client-related hat or an internal management hat, or possibly a finance or marketing hat. If you've identified that if you had more time to sell, you'd grow the business, it's time to hire or delegate something else. Now, that's super easy to say, but much harder to execute. You've probably heard every business coach tell you to delegate more. But what I found is that it's about delegating the right thing and replacing that time with more of the activity that's holding the business back. And sometimes it's scary bringing someone on to delegate to, especially if it's an overhead position. Let's say you're a $2 million a year remodeler. You're doing all the selling. You're still getting pulled into client work a little bit, and you manage the team. If you had more time, you could sell $3 million worth of work. So you look at adding a second in command or an operator. They will manage the team and be the backstop for all client-related issues. Hiring this person is a significant investment, probably 6 figures plus. That feels like a scary overhead decision. In my experience, it's true. It feels really uncomfortable. But the positive is that it puts the pressure on you to go sell that $3 million. Because at 30% gross margin, you're adding $1 million in sales, which is $300,000 in gross margin. Even if your operator costs you $150,000 a year, you're coming out $150,000 ahead. Each time you make an overhead leap, it puts some pressure on the business to perform to that next level. And usually, all that pressure falls on you. Again, this has just been my experience. It happened when I hired an operator, my first marketer, and my first salesperson, as well as my executive assistant. Each time, it forced me to reallocate my time to something that would move the business forward. If you find yourself a bit stuck, zoom out. What's the one thing that if it were true today would solve almost all your other problems? If you could take 10 hours per week from something that you're currently doing and then reallocate it towards something else you're doing, would your business grow? If so, you probably just found your next move. As you scale, keep trading up your time, continuing to focus on higher leverage activities. You're doing fewer things. Trust me, it feels very odd, but it's what's required. We'll see you next time here on Builder Funnel TV.